What's up guys, I'm Josh Mosman and this is our 2024 Kawasaki KX450X off-road tested video. Retailing for $10,699, the KX450X off-road model is $200 more than the standard KX450, which is all new for 2024, and that's why we're so excited to test this bike. There's only a few upgrades that you get when you buy the cross-country version, one of them being the 18-inch rear wheel. You also get the Dunlop AT81 off-road tires, and you get a kickstand and softer suspension settings. We're excited to shake it down today with MXA's Josh Fout on the bike.
All right, first impressions, track's a little short, slower. I like it so far. Suspension is plush. Very happy with that. It does feel exactly like the other Kawasaki, just with the softer suspension, real narrow, easy to ride, turns on a dime. Good for this track here today.
So it's a little different for motocross action to be testing off-road bikes. We spend the majority of our time on the track, but we do like getting off the track and hitting the trails as well. We were really excited to get the KX450X Cross-Country model this year because the KX450 is all new for 2024. If you guys want to know all the details on the motocross model, we have a video on YouTube and articles on our website. The KX450X Cross-Country model is the same exact bike with just a few changes. Not as many changes as you would expect for a cross-country off-road bike. It doesn't have a skid plate, it doesn't get specific mapping for off-road, and it also doesn't have handguards, and the big one, it doesn't have an oversized fuel tank. So this is really an entry-level off-road bike with the 18-inch rear wheel, kickstand, O-ring chain, and the softer suspension settings that come with the KX450X. If you do want to take this thing and do some real long trail riding, you're gonna need an oversized tank, and you also might want some handguards. MXA's Josh Fout, he rode the bike today. I rode it after him as well, and he's been spending a lot of time on our 2024 KX450. Let's talk to him now. All right, so Josh Fout, you guys know him as my mechanic whenever I do any racing, also as MXA's off-road tester. Trevor and Josh, you guys both like off-road. He spent time on our other KX450 and this one today. What were your thoughts on this bike?
You're absolutely right. I like to dabble in all kinds of different types of riding. Love it. But today we had a good time out here. Trevor took us to his local track. It rained. We're happy, right?
Yep.
As far as the KX450X, we spent a lot of time on the 450, so it's not a whole lot different. No big deal, but I feel like it's easier to take an off-road bike and make it a motocross bike. The biggest difference is the suspension. It's a lot plusher, front and rear. It's easier to get through this chop and stuff we have here in dry Southern California. But other than that, not big differences.
So in general, the all-new KX450, when we first got it, we were a little bit unimpressed with the bottom end snap and low end torque of the KX450. This actually has the lowest amount of torque in the whole 450 class in our 450 shootout. You can see all the dyno numbers there. We were a little bit underwhelmed with the engine coming out of the corners and just the initial snap that the KX450 has. The KX450 has not been known for having a ton of horsepower, but the 2023 model and earlier model years, they were actually still super snappy and exciting coming off the bottom end. 2024 with the new engine, it also has a new airbox. You can see that the air filter is now a flat piece of toast and it's very closed off. There's not a lot of air going into the engine. So I know Twin Air's working on making a new power flow kit for this bike. So that's one thing that does detune the power. Of course, it's very quiet on the track. That's one thing I kind of like about the KX450, but we have added a pro circuit system onto our KX450 motocross model, and that definitely helped liven up the power. And then Jamie Ellis, he also came and gave us a Vortex ECU mapped for the pro circuit pipe and for the KX450. Josh, what was it like riding that bike with the pro circuit and Jamie's mapping?
Much improved. It got closer to, say, a YZ450. More bottom end, but not so explosive. Good rear wheel traction. The combination was great. Other than that, one more thing to note on this bike, we did like to remove the grommet, and we did 3 1-inch holes on the airbox, just to get a little more throttle response.
Yep. So Kawasaki added a rubber grommet. You can see that on our other videos. That does limit a little bit of the air going into the airbox. So there's little things we're figuring out about it. As far as the chassis goes, we all really like it. They put more weight on the front end to get a little more steering and a little more, give it a more nimble feel on the track. Kawasaki's always been known for having a very balanced and well-handling chassis, something that's great for straightaway and great for traction, but a little bit harder to dip into the corners sometimes. So now the new bike has a little more weight on the front end, and that's something that I like. What do you think about the handling of the stock bike and also the off-road bike?
It's about the same. This maybe dive a little more in the stroke, which is probably okay in these smaller choppy sections. You actually get a little more front end traction. But you know, as far as the steering, it's quite a bit improved. It's easier to get in those deep ruts, cut across on inside corners. Maybe you lose a little stability in the suspension, but it's an easy fix.
So today is kind of an off-road day for the MXA Wrecking Crew. So we had the KX450X. We also had the CRF450RX. You can check out that video on our YouTube channel soon. Comparing the two bikes, this bike obviously not as strong on the bottom end. We were having to ride second gear quite a bit. Explain your feel between the KX power and the Honda power.
Yeah, this bike simply all the entire track second gear, no matter what. But second gear on this bike pulls quite a bit further than years previous. When you're comparing it to the Honda is a third gear everywhere, just a nice and easy. You want to wheel tap something, it's an easier bike to ride in third gear, and the power is right there.
Yep. All right, so glossing over a couple of the features that we really appreciate about the new 2024 KX models. The Brembo front brake that comes on this bike, we absolutely love it. It still has a Nissan rear brake on the KX450, which is kind of funny to have Nissan on the rear, Brembo on the front, but either way, front is much more important. We really appreciate it. We also love the ODI lock-on grips, much more comfortable than the previous vulcanized rubber grips that came on Kawasaki models. Other things we appreciate, Kawasaki gives us a 1.8 radiator cap to hold the coolant inside the engine. Well, it doesn't come stock. So when you see that in our video, you just know that you'll be getting a 1.1. 1.8 is definitely what we recommend to keep that radiator fluid in there. Other things that we appreciate about it, Kawasaki is the most adjustable bike in the class. You have 2 different mounting holes with 4 different positions for the handlebars up here on the front. Also, it comes with the foot pegs that are able to be lowered down, and you have the optional engine mounts that come with it as well. We got Luna walking in the video, but optional engine mounts, Kawasaki just gave us some of those. We're in the middle of testing those on our KX450 motocross model, so stay tuned for notes about that. Optional engine mounts, something that's never been done before on a motocross bike, and it's pretty sweet. As far as the off-road handling of the KX450, off-road always needs softer suspension than motocross. Motocross, you got more traction, you got more ruts, and you're putting more weight on the front end coming into corners, you're jumping jumps. Off-road, you need more supple, soft suspension to get traction in the hard pack, slick stuff. You need it to handle well going down fast straightaways, and that's what this KX450 does. We appreciate how stable it is. We appreciate the softer suspension of this bike, and it helps also going over rocks, logs, and roots as well. Stiff forks are going to deflect off of those, but softer suspension and softer forks will soak them up a little bit better, give you a little more traction.
Yeah, those small rocky hill climbs we did, yeah, it being subtle made it good. Didn't deflect, good front wheel traction. No big complaints on the technical stuff.
Also for the engine, a little more mellow. Does that help with off-road riding as well?
I think so. A little more rear wheel traction, maybe doesn't bind the chassis as much, so the bike continues to be stable. Yeah. Also another positive.
Yeah. So for me, I'm not in the best shape, so when it comes to racing off-road, I want something that's mellow, easy to ride, and usually I end up going faster if the bike is a little bit slower, a little more tame. So sometimes you'll prefer an exciting engine, but really a smooth, controllable bike, maybe faster for lap times, maybe faster for overall races. So KX450, not a bad bike. Excited to put some more time on it in the coming weeks. All right guys, that's it for our KX450X tested video. We're gonna throw a couple parts on this thing. First things first, Nitro Moose bibs inside the tires are a must to make sure Josh Fought does not get any flats while he's racing this weekend at the Glen Helen Works race. Of course, we're gonna throw some handguards on there, probably from a Chirby's, Guts Racing gripper seat cover, and we also need a skid plate Works Connection. They're one of the first brands to make a skid plate for this new KX450 chassis. Thanks for Works Connection. We'll get Josh dialed in for this weekend. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video. All right, guys, that's it for our KX450X tested video. Oh my gosh. She hit the lens.
I just messed up.
That's all right.
Sorry. I can't think about what I was going to say.
That's okay.
Sorry, I'm blowing it.
Okay.